entitled Woman Declares Breastfeeding is Disgusting and Not Allowed for Teen Moms. So, back when I was in high school, one of my closest friends had a baby boy, the absolute sweetest. She took some time off school to care for him, but was still determined to graduate with our class through online courses. We had this Friday tradition of grabbing food from local spots near school. This particular Friday, we decided on this nice Chinese restaurant I go to all the time. The lovely older Asian lady who runs it even knows me by name. They have a sticker on their front door proudly stating, "Breastfeeding is always welcome," which was perfect because my friend prefers breastfeeding. We ordered our food and were hanging out in the waiting area when her baby started getting fussy. She discreetly got out her nursing cover and began feeding him. We were chatting away when this woman and her son, who looked to be about 10, walked in. I recognized the kid as one of the children I used to look after when I volunteered at the local youth center. He came right up to me, started talking, and then curiously asked my friend what she was doing with the baby. Before my friend could even answer, the boy's mother interjected, her voice dripping with disdain. "That's a disgusting thing she's doing. Doesn't she know better than to do that in public? And why are you even doing that when you're just a child yourself?" My friend can be a bit fiery, so I quickly stepped in to defuse the situation before things escalated. It's perfectly legal, and Mrs. L is totally fine with it. They even have a sticker on the door. Mrs. L, the sweet owner who was just admiring the baby moments before, smiled at us and went back to her paperwork at the counter. The mother was clearly not happy and continued her judgmental rant. "I'm sorry, but I'm just not comfortable with a baby breastfeeding another baby. Can you please just stop?" she demanded, clearly frustrated. Finally, Mrs. L intervened, saying in her charming broken English, "Nursing baby is beautiful thing. You have problem, you leave." She then tapped our order on the kitchen window and apologized to my friend for the woman's rude behavior. Turning to the boy who was still standing near me, she jokingly asked, "Your mother, she dummy, right?" This made the boy giggle, and the mother just huffed and sat down as far away from us as possible. When my friend finished feeding and we went to pick up our food, Mrs. L slipped in an extra order of egg rolls, knowing they were my friend's favorite. Everything seemed fine until Monday when I saw the boy again. He pulled me aside and told me his mom said she didn't like me or my friend. I simply asked him if he still liked me, and he enthusiastically said yes. Yay! Honestly, that poor kid has a front row seat to peak entitlement. Mrs. L is the real MVP here, and if you agree, hit that subscribe button. Entitled Mom Gets Instant Karma After Trying to Steal Face Mask. My husband and I had a debate about whether or not I should share this story online. I was hesitant because I figured it would probably end up on the local news, and I wasn't ready to associate this account with my real life just yet. But he convinced me, so here we are. Buckle up because this story is wild. We were at that dreaded big box store braving the crowds to buy potting soil because we're attempting a DIY garden project to keep ourselves busy during isolation. Things aren't too crazy here yet, but there's a limit of 2 per customer on most items. We assumed that applied to everything, so we grabbed 2 bags each of a few different types of soil. My husband was loading the last of our 8 bags onto the cart when I heard her. I instantly knew it was a Karen just from the sheer unnecessary outrage in her voice. Karen screeched, "Are you kidding me?" The garden center wasn't too crowded, but everyone turned to look at her. I was almost disappointed when I saw she didn't have the stereotypical Karen haircut. She actually looked like a stressed out mom. Her kid was tugging on her arm, and she had a ridiculously full handbasket of groceries. For a split second I felt a pang of sympathy, thinking, "Girl, I get it." But then she pointed directly at "That's us, you." Karen continued her tirade. "You can't buy that many. You are hoarding." My husband calmly replied, "Yes, we can. We're getting 2 each." Karen scoffed, "Oh, don't try to fool me. I know exactly what you're doing." My husband, losing patience, retorted, "So do I. Mind your own business." And in that moment, I was just mentally applauding him and thinking about how great he was. Well, Karen huffed dramatically, spun around, and dragged her kid back inside to complain to the employee at the register. We'd already paid for our soil. The employee had come out earlier to scan the bags, and he could clearly see our cart from inside. Since we were finished, we pushed our cart out of the garden center and into the parking lot. Just as we did, the automatic doors opened behind us, and I heard, "Now they're stealing." Oh, for crying out loud, we loaded the soil into our cart and turned around to return the cart and maybe browse the plants inside. By the time we got back, Karen had apparently given up on convincing the employee that we were some kind of dirt-hoarding criminals. Now she was trying to cut in line at the checkout. She had a child cart, you see, and her handbasket was just so full and heavy. Could she please just sneak in real quick? It would only take a second, she promised. The woman Karen was trying to cut in front of was young, maybe college age, and wearing a face mask. Not a medical mask, but one of those stretchy ones people wear for motorcycle riding or skiing. My husband later told me it's called a neck gaiter. This mask was black and had scary wolf teeth printed on it, which honestly made this girl look like someone you really shouldn't mess with, even though she was wearing a simple t-shirt and flip-flops. Mask girl just shook her head no, and that was the last we saw of it as we returned the cart. I looked at a few plants, picked up a couple, and then we headed inside to wait in line ourselves. And that's when the real show began. Karen and Mask Girl were near the registers, clearly in a standoff. From what I could gather, Mask Girl had finished paying and Karen had stopped her before she could leave. I'm not sure if she physically grabbed her or anything, but Karen was still holding her overflowing handbasket, so she hadn't checked out yet. Well, she hadn't paid for her groceries yet, because this woman had definitely been checked out. Karen was yelling, "Dio, but you don't even need it anymore, you're leaving. My son could get sick because you won't give it to him, and he needs it." Mask Girl firmly replied, "Absolutely not, you can't have it. Back off, lady," Karen whined. "But my son really likes it, and it's obviously made for boys anyway." "Why would you even want to wear something so scary?" Mask Girl retorted. "Okay, because I like it, and it has my germs on it. Why would you put a stranger's mask on your kid?" Karen, now sounding incredibly put out, huffed, "Why are you being so rude? You wouldn't let us go through the checkout first, and now you're making my son very upset." Mask Girl simply stated, "Your problem, not mine." And then Mask Girl turned to walk away. That's when Karen summoned an unbelievable amount of audacity and grabbed Mask Girl by the back of her mask. Let me pause here for a moment. During this whole confrontation, everyone in line was just standing there, watching in stunned silence. The register was still making its beep, beep, beep sounds as the employee scanned items, but otherwise we were all in this weird hypnotic bubble. But the instant Karen reached for Mask Girl, it was like the bubble popped and everything became incredibly sharp and clear. Not slow motion exactly, but I felt hyper aware, like something out of an action movie. Karen lunged, people around me gasped, Karen yanked on the mask, a woman to my right yelled, and my husband instinctively stepped forward, definitely getting rewarded later. Mask Girl ducked her head and spun around to face Karen like an angry bull with a bright red target. I think Karen was about to say something like, "Don't you walk away from me," but all she managed to get out was, "Don't, crack." The noise was so loud I actually glanced around thinking the roof might be collapsing, but out of the corner of my eye I saw Karen convulse and drop to the floor writhing in pain. Little Miss Mask Girl had a freaking Yao taser. I have no idea when she pulled it out. It was this tiny flashlight looking thing, but she completely incapacitated Karen with it, and for what felt like an eternity, none of us moved, like we were frozen in place. Then absolute chaos erupted. A security guard appeared, more employees rushed over. Mask Girl stood there calmly like she'd been through this before and knew exactly what to do next. The kid started screaming that the wolf girl had killed his mom, even though she was groaning and sobbing on the floor, clearly not dead, but probably wishing she was. Everyone who had been in line with us started talking at once, trying to explain what happened to the security guard. We stood there for a couple of minutes just witnessing the pure insanity until Karen started choking out demands for an ambulance, the police, a lawyer, the mayor, restitution, and reparations. My husband made eye contact with an employee and got a thumbs up when he put the plants we'd picked out back on a shelf and gestured towards the exit. We got the heck out of there. We drove home in total silence until my husband parked the car in our driveway. Then we both just burst out laughing. Neither of us had ever seen anything like that before. We live in a small laid-back beach town where people are usually pretty mellow. Karen was anything but, and I sincerely hope we never cross paths with her again. Entitled Mom Brings Kid to Work, Expects Staff to Babysit, Gets Hilarious Karma. Our company was running a booth at a local carnival and we hired a few part-time staff to help out. Their job was to walk around the carnival grounds, hand out flyers, give information, and guide people to our booth. On the day of the carnival, after setting everything up, I gathered the part-timers for a quick briefing to get them ready for the day. Out of everyone, only one part-timer, who I'll call EM for entitled mom, was late. She had said she'd be about 15 minutes behind schedule, but it ended up being closer to an hour. We couldn't wait any longer, so I briefed the rest and sent them out to start their tasks. When EM finally arrived, she wasn't alone. She had her young child, about 5 or 6 years old, with her. Everyone knew from the start that this job wasn't suitable for bringing kids along. EM was fully aware of this. EM immediately announced my husband couldn't handle kids, so I had to bring her. I told her straight away, I can't have you working while looking after your child. That her response was unbelievable. It's not my problem, she declared. If you don't like it, find someone to babysit her. My colleague, let's call him C, had been watching this unfold. He was only really needed at the beginning and end of the carnival, so he was free for most of the day. C stepped in and offered to watch her kid. I can keep an eye on her, get her some food, watch some shows, play some games, he said. But you'll have to pay me for my time. EM just waved it off. Whatever. But I'm not paying you for your time, just for kid. C with a sly grin agreed. Sure. I was completely taken aback, but C reassured me not to worry. He had a plan. As soon as EM started working, C put his plan into action. He systematically took EM's daughter to every single booth at the entire carnival. It was like the kid's ultimate dream day. Anything she wanted to eat, C bought. They watched loads of shows and she won tons of prizes. Since C had a staff pass, he only had to pay for the kids' food and games. At the end of the carnival, when we were wrapping up and logging everyone's hours, EM had the audacity to demand full pay, even though she was almost an hour late. She started making excuses, blaming it on her kid, saying she would have been early otherwise. She went on a rant, which I mostly tuned out because I was exhausted and not in charge of payroll. But it was the usual entitled mom spiel, how I wouldn't understand because I don't have kids, and how she deserved full pay because she's a mother. My manager, who was nearby, winked at me and took over. He said he was really happy with how the day went, praised our supportive attitude, and said we should always put kids first. He told EM not to worry about her hours and that she would be paid in full. EM, without even a thank you, loudly proclaimed, "At least someone understands," with this smug, victorious look on her face. Oh, but the victory was short-lived. The real kicker for EM was that her daughter had spent roughly $100 throughout the day. EM's pay was $15 an hour for 8 hours, which is $120. So after deducting her daughter's expenses, she had earned a grand total of $20 for the entire day. C had meticulously kept track of all the expenses, receipts, tickets, stubs, and even took loads of photos. When EM found out, she threw a massive tantrum, but with all the evidence and her own daughter excitedly confirming how much fun she'd had, EM didn't have a leg to stand on. All she could do was yell, "I'm not paying for this." Grab her daughter and storm off. We are all eagerly anticipating payday when we get to issue her a check for the princely sum of $20. Oh, the sweet, sweet sound of karma in the morning. This is what happens when entitlement meets a colleague with a backbone and a staff pass. Entitled Aunt Goes Ballistic After Finding Reddit Post Detailing Her Entitlement. Hello again, everyone. So I posted a story just the other day about how my aunt completely ruined my sister's birthday. Well, it turns out that either she or her daughter is on Reddit, specifically on r/entitledparents, and they actually read my story, and things blew up last night. Here's what went down. EM, entitled mom, who is my aunt. EC, entitled cousin, her daughter. S, my sister. My aunt, EM, called my dad last night around 11 p.m. when he was practically asleep. The phone conversation started with her launching straight into accusations. EM shrieked into the phone, "How could you do this to us? Damn, aren't we family? Why would you shame us like this? And it was so long ago. Couldn't you just let it go?" My dad, completely confused and half asleep, had no idea what she was talking about. He asked her to explain what had happened to upset her so much. That's when she revealed that she was talking about the Reddit post about my sister's birthday. My dad, bless his heart, doesn't know and frankly doesn't care what Reddit even is. He asked her what the big deal was. EM's response was classic, entitled parent deflection and blame shifting. EM huffed, "Wow, so your daughters just do things without telling you? You really need to keep a closer eye on them. Don't let them get out of hand. You should have taught them some manners." My name, just exposed us and shamed us online for everyone to see. Dad, still trying to understand, asked, What are you even saying? How did she expose you? She hasn't even spoken to you in years. EM sputtered. She posted a story about us online, and as soon as EC read it, we both knew it was about us. For context, I hadn't used any names in my original story, not even my own. Dad, finally realizing I might be involved, asked me if I had posted something and why. It took me a good 15 to 20 minutes to explain to my dad what Reddit is and what I had written. I reassured him that I had simply narrated a story and hadn't revealed anyone's actual identity. Dad, still on the phone with my aunt, handed the phone over to me so I could explain it to her directly. The moment I said hello, EM launched into a screaming tirade so loud that her voice was echoing out of the phone. EM screeched, "You witch! How dare you do that, Hakiku? Who do you think you are? You poisoned my child against me and then made it sound like I was overreacting. Take that post down right now and apologize for it on that subreddit. If you don't, I swear I'm gonna sue you." Completely stunned and now furious myself, I simply said, "No, I won't do any of that." I even added, "And I'd love to see you try to sue me all the way from California." Dui then escalated her insults, resorting to calling both my sister and me derogatory names. At that point, my dad had enough. He snatched the phone back, told her to never contact any of us again, and immediately blocked her number. So to my dear Aunt Sheila, if you and EC are reading this, consider yourselves called out. You reap what you sow. The aunt's reaction is just proving the original post's point, isn't it? Threatening to sue over a Reddit post? Seriously? What's the most ridiculous overreaction you've seen from an entitled parent? Entitled mom blames me for daughter's tears after 6-hour interview no-show. Hello everyone, longtime lurker here, and I never thought I'd encounter a real-life entitled mom. But here we are. I'm a 20-year-old dog groomer, been in this profession for almost 5 years now. In dog grooming, reputation, quality, and especially time management are absolutely crucial. Yesterday, we had scheduled a tryout for a potential new dog groomer at 10 a.m. This girl seemed promising on paper. She was in her early to mid-20s and had experience grooming at other salons. However, she didn't show up until 4:30 p.m. No phone call, no message, nothing. When she finally arrived, her excuse was that she had a hair appointment. And then friends from out of town came, so they all decided to get their nails done. After all that, she had the nerve to ask if she could still do her tryout groom. I told her no, quite firmly. When she pressed, I stated, perhaps a bit bluntly, "We don't want or need you. There's no need to reschedule your tryout." I went back to finishing up my last 2 dog clients of the day. Apparently my words made her cry, and I admit I briefly felt a twinge of guilt. Then came the entitled mom part. This morning her mother stormed in demanding we give her daughter a second chance. I explained to her, "Your daughter was 6.5 hours late for her scheduled interview. That kind of tardiness simply doesn't work in the dog grooming business." The EM retorted, "She was with friends. I would have thought someone your age would understand that kind of thing." I replied, trying to keep my composure but definitely getting annoyed. Not when it's for a job interview, and especially not without even a phone call to let us know. By this point, I was really frustrated and just wanted to get back to work. I had 5 dogs waiting for their grooms. She then had the audacity to say, well, there was no reason to make her cry. By that, I simply told her I disagreed and went back to work, dismissing the conversation. Apparently she didn't leave it at that. She stayed near the front, continuing to demand that we give her daughter another chance. As the head groomer, I reiterated that it wasn't going to happen. Eventually she huffed and left, declaring loudly that her daughter was far too good for our salon anyway. 6.5 hours late? For an interview? That's not late. That's a whole new level of disrespect for someone's time. If you think this mom's entitlement is off the charts, like and subscribe for more, and have an awesome day.